Welcome back, and thank you for joining us for a conversation about Cinema Sabaya. Such a poignant and insightful film, and in Rona's words, the class instructor in the film, it's so interesting and unique, and I really look forward to talking to you about it. But before we start, I'd like to introduce the filmmaker, Orit Fouks Rotem. Orit was born in Israel and graduated from the Jerusalem Sam Spiegel School with honors in 2012, where she won her class Promising Director Award. Her student film, Staring Match, was screened in festivals all over the world and won many awards. After she graduated, she co-directed a documentary series for the Israeli channel Yes Doco. She worked as a film facilitator and director for an Israeli nonprofit, made films with at-risk youth, and taught filmmaking to women in Israel. She also conducted research for a documentary by the Oscar award-winning director Alex Gibney, and wrote and directed 2 short fiction films, You Remain Silent and Veil. Both were screened at festivals around the world. This Cinema Sabaya is Orit's debut feature film. So welcome, Orit. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
We're honored to have you here and to screen your film. I just need to say that I have watched it a few times, and I have felt so much personally that I was going through the process with the women in some ways, because they do such in-depth exploration, and at first it's that stripping away of kind of their public persona, what we present to the world when we're getting to know someone new, and then how we strip away that as more intimacy is created. And that was really beautiful. Can you tell us about the genesis of the film, how you came up with the concept? I've read that it's drawn from your personal experience leading similar workshops.
So actually, my mother works as the mayor advisor for women's issue in Hadera municipality. Hadera is a small city in north of Israel, and she actually participated in one of those groups, in a group like that. It was a still photography lessons with women from the area of Hadera, Arab and Jewish, and it happened while I finished my film school, and I thought to myself, it's a great platform to talk about women issues and about cinema. Both are topics that interesting me to deal with. So I started thinking of this film and this platform, and I started to do a research by actually doing these groups. I initiated some groups in Accra and in Givat Haviva, which is a center for coexistence, and women came and started to tell their stories through the camera, and they gave me a lot of inspiration, and I started to write ideas and characters that were interesting to me, and the script was born from working with women all over and hearing stories of women. So it was a long journey. It's like I think it's 9 years since the idea just occurred to my mind.
Wow.
Until now. Yeah.
That's great. I was going to bring this up later, but you mentioned the Center for Coexistence, and a big part of the film is the different women, Arabs and Jews and Israelis and Muslim that are in the film. How much of that was part of your intent? the coexistence, to talk about issues that women face living together?
The idea at the first was to talk about women, not about Arab and Jewish. And I thought to myself that there's a lack of Muslim or Christian Arab women in the Israeli cinema, and I really wanted to deal with Israeli women. So for me, it was both.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I understood that I can't put them in one room and not talk about the conflict, and not to. But I didn't want it to be the center of things. I wanted it to be talked about it at first, just to take it off the table, if you say it also, and to deal with the women itself, not as Jewish and Arab. Of course, it's a part of their identity, and it's a part of the film, but it's not the main subject for me.
Yeah, well, that comes across very well. And then I'll maybe come back to that, but I did want to ask, when you're starting to bring this up, is just, it's so authentic and natural, but we know, that it is a film with actors. And I'm wondering, how was it scripted from the beginning? Did you workshop this with the women beforehand? Was there much rehearsal? How closely was the film? Did it follow the script? Maybe talk a little bit about that piece.
Yeah, it followed the script. Most of it, I mean, the Rona's character was much more the protagonist. But then in the shooting, I understood it shouldn't be like that. So her story was a bit changed. It changed. She was a part of them. I understood the shooting, but most scenes are written, and some of them are improvisation. But the topics and what they talk about, it's all scripted. And what we did is to shoot the film with 2 cameras and shoot it like a documentary. So we didn't do a lot of takes. We didn't take this side and then this side. So we just followed, and a lot of text is off screen. And I think it gives something to the authenticity that you said. And also in the casting process, I really try to cast women that are close with their themes in life to the characters. And also I changed a lot the characters after I casted them. For instance, Carmela, the woman that lives in the yacht, so she really lives in the yacht, and she's really, I based the character after I met her. I wrote her. So that's how it's very close to life, because it's really similar to her life. That was the
fascinating. It's so interesting to learn about that you had 2 cameras, because there's so much that happens in the group where you see reactions that are so natural and beautiful. And I guess I'm curious too about the footage that they brought to class, how that was created and woven into.
So it's different for each woman, but it was important for me that they will shoot what they show. And also I didn't, the other women didn't watch it before. So it was natural, because they really watched it for the first time. They read what it's going to be about, but they didn't know what they're going to see. And so for instance, Etty, that shoots her husband wash the car, so it's not her husband, it's an actor, but she did shoot it. So
it is through her eyes.
It's through her eyes, but it's not her life.
Her actual. Yeah.
Except of Carmela, that this is her yacht for real, and her dog and everything.
And her
but
dog.
She's the only one, yeah. I know,
And-
but also Yelena. Also Yelena shot her room and her daughter.
Oh.
But she's an actor, so she doesn't work in the municipality, and she's an actor and
Well,
teach acting. So.
Okay, that was my next follow-up question to that is, you know, were all the characters professional actors? You know,
So
because
no, so half, I think it's half. Each of them had something to do with acting or interest in acting, but Suad and Carmela never acted in their life before. So it was their first experience. But Gila, it's Ruth Landau, she's an actor in Abima, in the theater. And but again, the subjects are close to them also if they're actors or not. So, and Nasrin is a very famous singer in the Arab world. It's Amal Moukus. So, and she acted before, but a long time she didn't. So they're all close to it, but
Rona
not.
too is an actress. I know I've
Yeah, Rona is Dana Ivgi, and she's a very famous actor in Israel. She did a lot of films and series. Yes, she's one of the most famous actors in Israel.
Interesting. How did she sign on to the project? That's wonderful. You know, I know.
I think she liked the script, and the experience sounds interesting for her. She understood she's not the main issue, but she's very, very important. So she's like the eyes of the film. She watches them and she makes them react. So even though she had a script, she was very free to improvise and to make the women react to the situation. She was very a partner for me, and more than usually. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because everybody is so seamless and natural, where to know that she's such a well-known actress and there's people who've never acted before, you really created you know, an atmosphere and an environment to make that unfold so realistically, which also makes me think about the room. Almost all the film is in this one room, but it's so alive. Can you talk a little bit about that decision? You know, we never go outside except for what we see on the film they bring.
Yeah, that was part of the concept from the beginning, that their real life will be only through their eyes, and I divided the script to 8 meetings. At first I was very afraid that it will be boring, just to see the same room again and again. But very fast I understood that the women's spaces are like locations, like each of them is like a location of its own. So so when the interaction is interesting and real, I think it covers for the lack of locations and outside world. And actually I did shoot a bit in the outside world of Rona, but I decided not to put it inside the film. It felt very felt less natural than what happened in the room.
Yeah, and then of course you have the wonderful scenes of each woman, you know, their film with the singer, kind of music video. All of those pieces expand the space.
Yeah, these doodles.
I guess I'd like to talk a little more about Rona and the similarity between you and your background. Like, did you identify with the process that she went through in the film? And maybe talk a little bit about her decision, of getting exposed, about her desire to make a film. There's a lot of parallels and interweaving
Yeah.
there.
Actually, when I did the research, I did some groups. So I started thinking about doing a documentary about it, but I, of course, talked with the women about it and thought about it, and there were many stories that couldn't be told, of religious women, Muslim women, very private stories. And I understood that the way to do it in a way I feel comfortable with would be in writing a script and making it a fiction film.
Right.
So I had this dilemma, but not really, because I would never do something behind the back. And also that's why in the film she's not really acting or doing something, it's just her intentions.
Right.
Because I think it's very appealing for a filmmaker to be a witness to so many interesting stories and not be able to tell them, to share them with the world. So in the end, her understanding is that she's happy that she saw it. But for me, I guess it wasn't enough. So I wrote a fiction film about it. Yeah.
That's so interesting, fascinating. Let's see. I guess I do want to go back a little bit to, in the beginning of the film, one of the women asked, why the workshop is presented in Hebrew when half of us are Arab. And another one, the Jewish woman whose name I'm forgetting, talks a little bit about her fear of Arabs.
Etty, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So they get to work through this somewhat, their similarities and differences, I think, through the appreciation of getting to know them and through their art that they're creating in the class. I'm wondering if that's something you believe, that filmmaking can be a tool for understanding and change potentially.
I think, of course, that filmmaking has a lot of power of inner observation and also out to see the other. But here, I think in the film, it's mostly the interaction and the meetings. The filmmaking is like a trigger to getting closer and knowing each other, but doesn't replace the personal interaction. That I think this is the power of groups and those kind of meetings. And yeah, I think if I wouldn't believe that it can make a change, I wouldn't do it. So for me, maybe it's childish or a naive thoughts, but I think yes, it can.
Yeah, good. I agree. And you've done that very powerfully. Is there anything I haven't asked that you'd like to talk about in the film, about the film, about the process?
I can tell that it was only 12 days of shooting, and we shot it chronologically. So we did it like a course, really. So I imagined a lot of things that would happen, that could happen and happened, but a lot of it was just what happened naturally. So I think that this is the power of the film. Is this authenticity that really was there in the room, and it's thanks to this to those wonderful actors and women I met, and the crew that worked with me, the cinematographers, both of them. It was a very special set for me and I think for all the crew.
It comes across. It's just really, and it's your first film. It's a really powerful and accomplished debut feature,
you.
I believe. And do you have any plans? Are you working on your next film?
I'm starting to write, I'm developing a TV series, and I'm thinking about, I just did a short documentary about the singer, Nisrin Amal Mulkus, for the Israeli national television channel. It just published in Thursday. So she's a very interesting woman and a singer, Amal Mulkus. Yeah.
Okay. I have to keep an eye out for that and for your work in the future.
Thank you.
It's really wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Do this Q&A and for your beautiful film.
Thank you.
Take care. Good night in Israel.
Thank you for watching.
Of course. Thank you.
Bye-bye.